our last learning session, and I'm really pleased to have Mike Greer joining us for today and Wednesday. I've known Mike for a number of years, since he's a fellow member of the Rotary Club of Lethbridge East, past president of our club, as well as incoming president for 23-24. So no shortage of being engaged. In fact, he's our international director for the last few years as well. So very well qualified to speak to us today. But most importantly, he spent most of his career in the marketing industry. As he was mentioning to some of us earlier, he was 17 years with Canada Packers, better known as Maple Leaf Foods, in various marketing positions in sales and logistics in Toronto, Edmonton, and Winnipeg. And then 25 years with Ellison Milling here in Lethbridge, various locations that later became Parrish and Heimbecker Milling Company. And when he retired, he was vice president for the Western region of Parrish and Heimbecker. So very well qualified to talk about grain processing, oilseed processing. And you know, when I asked Mike if he would help us out with this, he'd hoped he'd be able to get some of his connections to participate, but he spent a lot of time meeting with them and sharing some of their intelligence. So we're very pleased to have Mike join us for today and Wednesday to talk about value added processing, since, as I've mentioned to all of you over the last 5 weeks, Canada relies on marketing. Our biggest problem in Canada is the lack of population. And so the key for marketing ag products is to try to accommodate local processing where possible before it's being shipped off to the world, because 75–80% of our products are exported. So it's a big challenge, and I can think no one more well qualified to discuss this issue than Mike Greer. So again, I want to acknowledge Rob Wolfson, who's helping out with our IT today, and he'll be running this presentation that Mike has, and later Mike has a video that he'll be sharing with us. So I'll turn the program over to you, Mike.
Okay. Mike, sorry to interrupt. I actually got a weird warning, which we've never got before, because we're using the same account, that we only have 9 minutes remaining in our meeting, which is really weird because we're using the same Zoom that we've always used for all the other meetings. So if we all happen to get disconnected in 9 minutes, which I think we are going to, we'll have to reconnect, I believe. So Rick, are you there?
Yeah, I got the same message, Rob. I'm not sure what's going on. It could be related to this supposed upgrade we just went through.
Yeah. So
Zoom.
what do you recommend? Just reconnecting after the time expires? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to get disconnected.
What I may do is just upgrade to Pro, but I don't know if that'll impact the meeting.
Okay, go ahead. You have 8:40. No pressure. Go ahead.
I'll talk real fast. How's that?
Yeah.
So everyone just be aware, if we get
Just what we
disconnected,
needed.
everyone just relog in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll start the meeting again, and then give me a minute to do that. Then we'll relog in. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Wayne, for that nice introduction. I think you used up about 3 or 4 of my slides, so that'll speed things up. And we got the screen share going on here, Rob. Here we go. Okay, good. All right, well, you can skip to the next one, please, Rob, or scroll to the next one, I guess. Okay, and I guess you can scroll to the next one. And I just wanted to say hello and bonjour, and hola in Spanish, and hola in Portuguese, and I even put in Provit, which is how you say hello in Ukraine. And it's just sort of a minor little tribute to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine who are going through some terrible, terrible times right now. And I think it weighs on all our minds and everything we do these days. I'm happy to be involved in this project, particularly in the students from South America. In my career, I've been to South America a few times, to Buenos Aires in Argentina, and a few times to Sao Paulo, more exactly into Campinas. We used to do work with a pasta company down there called Selmy, which is kind of the Catelli of South America. So it's just enjoyable to be able to spend some time with our young friends from South America. Yeah, this is my real quick bio. I graduated from the University of Guelph with a BCom number of years ago. I specialized in hotel and food administration. And although I did a little bit of hotel work in my university years, once I got out into the big world, I sort of veered into food administration. I spent 17 years with Canada Packers, who evolved into Maple Leaf Foods, mostly to marketing, sales, logistics in Toronto, Edmonton, and Winnipeg. My wife and I are from Southwestern Ontario originally. Most of my work was done in processed meats, wieners, bacon, sliced meats, etc. I then left them and came to work for the Ellison Milling Company in 1992. We were owned by Parrish and Heimbecker, and we had 2 or 3 mills of our own, but we bought out Dover Flour Mills and formed a large company called P&H Milling Group. I retired in 2017. I was Vice President of National Sales. I am a past president of the Rotary Club of East Lethbridge, and I guess I'm going to be doing that again in 23, 24. Yeah, I have been a Rotarian for about 29 years now. Next slide, please. So today we want to talk about the food value chain. I've kind of got some categories here. What are the benefits of local processing? What exactly is the value chain? And then we're going to dwell a little bit on examples of local processing in our region. And later on, we're going to be talking about challenges in the future. Now, that'll probably be mostly in the second session on Wednesday. Next slide, please, Rob. So before we do that, I just thought we'd take a few minutes and have a little bit of fun and do a real quick history. And what we've got before us there is, this is what agriculture in Alberta looked like for thousands and thousands of years. That's what our livestock looked like. That was about all there was. There was a lot of them, but that was pretty well the only species. And that was our main crop, prairie grasses. And moving on, please, Rob. And just quickly, agricultural beginnings. Well, we know that going back to the 10th century, the Vikings explored the North Atlantic and discovered Canada. And in 1492, Columbus, I guess they say he discovered it. I think he rediscovered it. In 1534, Jacques Cartier explores Canada and establishes early settlements, mostly in Eastern Canada at that point in time. But starting about in the 1750s, fur traders gradually moved into Western Canada. And in 1778, Peter Pond was a gentleman who became the first farmer in Alberta, setting up a trading post in the lower Athabasca River. And from there, many early forts grew vegetables and experimented with European crops. And that was very, very common back then. You'd build your fort for protection, but then you'd have crops in the surrounding area. And in Alberta, at that time, oats and barley did well. Wheat, well, not so much at first. The next thing that impacted our ag business was in 1885, the Homestead Act opened up the West by enabling settlers to acquire a piece of land for a modest price. And from there, these early settlers made a commitment of time and effort to the cultivation of land, despite our harsh climate, lack of infrastructure, and many hardships. But eventually, we did become the breadbasket of Canada. And I'm going to side note here, interestingly, back in those days, or back in the early part of our province, many of those early settlers were Ukrainian. And it was a pretty tough life. They were given a couple hundred acres, and I think they had to promise to stay for 3 years. But initially, there was no housing, no houses, no wood to build a house. And many of those early settlers actually lived in basically dirt houses that they had to make. Next slide. The cattle industry, our natives practiced little agriculture, but they were hunters of bison and gatherers. But these huge open rangelands made ranching easy, leading to the rise of the cattle barons. The beef industry prospered, and to this day, Alberta is Canada's beef capital. And today, Alberta produces 40% of Canada's beef. Next one, please. And moving on in history, in 1926, Marquis Wheat released Red Bob's 222, which was more suitable for our climate. We struggled through the 1930s with depression, drought, and falling prices. However, at the end of World War II, Europe needed grain, and that kind of sparked a boom, or you might even call it sort of the beginning of modern agriculture. And at that time, not only was there a great demand for our crops, but mechanization replaced horsepower.
Okay,
Next slide, please.
we're under a minute, so I don't know what's going to happen. Just giving you a heads up.
Okay. Today, we have a world-renowned, modern, highly efficient, high-volume integrated